guys, welcome to the Treasury Update Podcast Coffee Break Session, the show where we cover foundational Treasury topics and questions in about the same amount of time it takes you to drink your coffee. This is your host, Alexa, and today I'm joined with Craig Jeffery, Managing Partner at Strategic Treasurer. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks, Alexa.
So last time we discussed operating accounts, and we're going to continue on with some accounts, this time discussing concentration accounts. So Craig, what are concentration accounts?
Concentration accounts they're also regular bank accounts, but used for mobilizing cash in the organization. There's two purposes, or two primary purposes, is mobilizing funds for efficient cash management and then isolating activity. And there's a couple purposes why you would isolate certain activity using concentration accounts.
Okay. My next question was, what's the main purpose of that concentration account? But I feel that you sort of just answered that with the efficiency of cash management and then isolating the cash. But maybe if you wanted to talk a little bit more about why we would isolate the cash.
Yeah. So there's more on that. So the isolating the activity, there's a couple reasons. So if you run and summarize, if you will, your activity, or you concentrate your balances into this concentration account, that makes it a lot more efficient and optimal for your cash position decisions, because many organizations may have 10 accounts, 100 accounts, 1,000 or thousands of accounts. These types of structures let you concentrate all of that cash in one location and helps you make your decisions for investment or paying down debt much more easily. Secondly, this fits into the overall cash management structure where you have different types of activity going through different types of accounts. And this helps with the forecasting process because you can see and spot differences on a 0-day basis, but you can also see and manage flows with the level of detail you get back from the banking system. And it tends to help in that way significantly.
So then what are some of the benefits of these concentration accounts? And I know that you sort of just alluded to some of them in stating what the main purposes are, but is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or specifically some of the benefits in having a concentration account?
Yeah, because you have a concentration account, usually you have specialized collection accounts or receivable accounts and disbursement accounts. And the benefit of this, in addition to pooling up your cash or mobilizing your funds, is that now you have certain activity running through each account. This helps you with your decisions on, do I need to make an adjustment to what my 0-day forecast was? Is there a potential fraud or unexpected activity? Instead of hundreds or thousands of transactions going through a single operating account, that can be a big mess if there's a problem. Now it's, here's all my depository activity, here's my disbursements, and it isolates the returns. So this helps with clarity of view. It can also help with fraud detection, because you can, in many cases, more readily spot anomalous activity or activity that shouldn't be there. And so it helps in a number of these ways, from traditional cash management to security.
Should different entities or companies have multiple concentration accounts then?
Yeah, that's a good and involved question. So companies, as they're growing, they move from an operating account to a concentration account with specialized accounts. This is oftentimes going to be done at a single bank. Should you have multiple concentration accounts in that type of scenario, the answer would be no. That would be just extra accounts. But many organizations may have a lot of, let's say, collection activity at one financial institution, other types of disbursement activity, or money center bank activity at another, and they have a concentration account there too. Because they have 20 accounts at one institution, 50 at another, they would want to concentrate that activity at those institutions, and therefore there would be a benefit to have multiple concentration accounts due to their overall banking structure. So it's concentrating within a particular institution makes sense, even if you ultimately send that money back to your core, your primary concentration bank. So that would make sense. You asked, you had another element in that question too about by entity, and this will probably expand beyond the coffee break session. Amount of detail we usually provide, but the idea of how you can pool cash in an organization. There's a number of structures and elements for doing that, and we may need to broaden into that. But there might be ways of pooling cash, concentrating cash outside of a single entity. If you have one entity and you have a few concentration accounts, a concentration account, a few collection accounts, and a disbursement account or two, that might be ideal for one entity. When you start to have multiple entities, some will find it due to different restrictions that they need a concentration account for each of them. Others will find that they can put some structures in place where they can pool the cash in physical bank accounts while maintaining the distinction. So I'll leave it at that for the purposes of this discussion.
Okay. And then my final question, is there any risk in using any of these concentration accounts? I know you said if we're at one bank, really you shouldn't have several or multiple concentration accounts. So I feel like there was implied risk with that setup. But would there be any other instance in which there would be risk in using a concentration account or accounts?
Yeah, there's a risk in any type of account, but not there's lower level of risk with this type of modern concentration structure. Every single account represents a point of exposure. And some people say, well, I don't want to concentrate funds because then someone could get all my cash as opposed to separate, having separate accounts. But this allows you to see, manage, and it doesn't prevent you from setting up other types of account level or transaction level controls to protect it. So there's always a risk. Your banking structure, including the use of concentration accounts, can help you reduce those risks, but it's not automatic.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'll do just a quick recap on everything we've covered today on what are concentration accounts. So again, they're regular bank accounts, and they're really used to mobilize some of the cash in an organization. And some of the main purposes of these concentration accounts are for efficient cash management and to isolate some of that activity. And just, again, some of the high-level benefits are for clarity of view and fraud detection. Was there anything else that you wanted to add there or anything we missed on concentration accounts?
Yeah, maybe just briefly. So a lot of organizations will use some sort of ZBA or zero balance account structure where there might be some target balance in an account, a collection account or disbursement account. Everything else, all the other funds will move to, or let's say will move to the concentration account, or only the required funding will move to a disbursement account. So that's a mechanism for, managing the movement of funds into or out of the concentration account. So it's related, but not inexorably tied to concentration account per se.
Well, thank you, Craig, for joining us today on the Treasury Update podcast, Coffee Break Sessions, and for covering what are concentration accounts. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in this week, and make sure you join back every first and third Thursday of the month for a new episode. And as always, if you are interested in reaching out, we're always interested in hearing your questions, comments, or feedback. So you can send us an email at podcast@strategictreasurer.com. Thanks again, Craig.
This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.